Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kokui Selormey Hanson. Kudos to Startup Africa for this initiative, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it. I'm going to be moderating this discussion on the future of the music industry, innovation, trends, talent, and investment. So once again, my name is Kokui Selormey Hanson. I'm a broadcaster here in Accra, Ghana with 97.3 City FM. I'm also a classically trained singer and many other things. But for the purposes of today, I'm your moderator. We have some esteemed panelists who'll be joining us for this discussion. And I'm gonna introduce each of them by name solely. Once I introduce you, if you're on, please just give us a brief intro, wave at us so we can see you, and then we'll get into our discussion. So, Eche Emole is the CEO of Afropolitan Group. Hi, Eche.
Thanks for having me on. I am Eche, CEO of Afropolitan Group. We're an events and travel company. We primarily focus on the African diaspora. We do concerts, handle festivals, and also parties as well. And we also do travel to African countries. So that's our main focus. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eche. Next, let's go to our fellow musician, my fellow musician, WYRE. Good afternoon, WYRE.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, and I love it how people pronounce my name. It's WYRE, not WYRE.
WYRE. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So
Thank you
yeah,
for joining us as well, WYRE.
I'm a reggae and dancehall artist from Kenya. I'm also a music producer and CEO of Love Child Records as well.
Fantastic. All right. Olamide Olaitan is the VP and A&R for Chocolate City. Olamide, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. How you doing?
How are you?
Hi, my name is Olamide Olaitan. I'm the head A&R for Chocolate City and Warner Music. We're a record label in Africa, based in Nigeria, with an office in Kenya as well. We are also the exclusive record label partner for Warner Music in West Africa. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do so far.
Thank you. I love that the intros are concise and to the point so far. All right, I'll move on to Kenneth Agyapong, who is co-founder of Afrochella. Hi, Kenneth.
Hey, how you doing? Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Well, Kenny, everybody calls me Kenny from Afrochella. We founded in 2017. Well, 2015, but our first event was 2017. And now we're just a small company in Ghana. So, yeah.
All right, short, sweet, and to the point. Okay, Kim Sebuliba is the MD of Kasana Events. Hello, Kim.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Kim Seboliba, and I'm the only live female entertainment promoter for live events in East Africa. I run a company called Kasana Events, and it's a youth-led company. So we do quite a bit. We do promotions, music promotion, we do branding, and entertainment consulting. So yeah, that's me.
Great. Nice to see you. Nice to see a fellow female face on this panel.
Hi.
And finally, Derrick. Derrick Ashong is CEO of amp.it. Hi, Derrick.
Hi, Kokui. Nice to meet you all. Ashong, aka DNA, originally from Accra, Ghana, grew up all over the world. And my background is in the music industry, but also in technology. And we built a technology solution that enables content owners and creators to build a direct, long-standing relationship with their fans. And also, we created something called Take Back the Mic, the World Cup of Hip Hop, and are doing the first season of the Mic Africa as an original music competition format born on the African continent, running right now.
Fantastic. Thank you to all of you for joining us for this discussion. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the future of the music industry, innovation, trends, talent, and investment. And we have quite an erudite panel assembled this afternoon, thanks to Startup Africa. So let's get into the conversation. Time seems to run pretty quickly when you've got people of your caliber on calls like this. But let's just start off with a bit of a look at investment in our entertainment industry. So we do know that in the next few years, we're going to see about over $12 billion in revenue from this sector, probably even more than that. Some people still see our entertainment industry in this part of the world as something that maybe is still emerging, but we're still looking at people investing here. And for those of you who are, this is your everyday business, right? What would convince an investor, in your opinion, to take a chance on African entertainment and media? So what do you think are some of the things an investor would be looking for if they're going to put their money into this industry, support up and coming talent, and make the industry grow beyond what it is now, as we're providing employment for people and for entrepreneurs in the industry? WYRE, since it looks like I can see you very clearly right now, maybe you can start here. You're an artist in the industry. What do you think investors are looking for?
Well, definitely return on investment. They're looking for numbers at the end of the day. For instance, one of the biggest ventures on this side, on East Africa, is the caller ringback tone service. It's a very popular service and became popular a couple of years ago. And a lot of artists have turned to that to make revenue from. As long as you, as an artist, as long as you invest in your brand and get it to the place, it's going to get you to a place where your brand starts feeding you. You know what I mean? Now, one big problem we're having with a lot of artists is they want to make a quick buck overnight. And I've been at this for a couple of years, enough to know that it takes time, tireless nights, many gigs without paychecks. Before you start getting that paycheck, you really need to put time and effort into that brand for it to get to a place where it can start feeding you. It doesn't come overnight, for sure. And once your brand grows enough, you'll be able to get to a place where you can sit in those boardrooms and dictate. You can dictate the right numbers. You're going to get the respect from the corporate brands, but you need to bring yourself up to the level where they can reason on the same level with you, because they know the masses that you have. You know, they don't have your numbers on social media, the kind of numbers you have, and they'd love to get to those numbers.
We're still on this topic of getting people to invest more in what we're doing here. So if Eche, I think if you're still on, maybe you can let us know some of your thoughts on this.
I think I was having a conversation with an Afrobeats artist, and he was talking about the income from streaming and how he feels that the current approach to streaming in Africa is the wrong approach, right? It's almost like the Spotify's and maybe the Apple Music are trying to bring in the Western approach and apply it to the African approach. But in Africa, we can't afford to pay $10 a month for music. Like, that's not happening anytime soon. So he was proposing, or he's working on a platform where the music is actually free and artists get distribution and marketing, but the revenue is the third thing, is the third angle. Because my initial question to him is like, well, how are artists going to get paid? So he was saying that in the hierarchy of needs for an African artist, revenue is not actually the first thing. First, as an artist, you need to be able to get distribution. You need to be able to market yourself, like WYRE was talking about, getting your brand there. And if you're able to get that, the revenue can then be a discussion that you have. But for right now, it seems like the streaming companies are going in there thinking, oh, let's get the revenue for the artists the same way we're able to do that in Latin America and in the Western markets. And that's not, those are not local solutions that fit our local context. And I think that's something that any investor who's looking to invest in Africa needs to keep in mind and understand that maybe you start with a freemium model first, get as many users as you can, and then over time introduce paid packages, you know, so. Okay.
All right, cool. I think Kenneth has rejoined us. Kenneth, I'm not sure if you heard what we were discussing. The initial question.
Oh, yeah, I did. But I think I definitely agree because so I think if you believe in your product or whatever you're doing and being persistent with it, the money will come after. But I think in Africa, we think more sometimes about the money first, but you should believe in the brand and build the brand first. Then everything else will trickle afterwards. So then that will make an investor more enticing to invest. Okay, maybe they see it. Okay, you're doing something right. Maybe something that they could help with their expertise and whatnot.
Okay, I think one connecting thread that the three of you have touched on so far is the need for artists, at least, to make money. I mean, we're talking about survival as well, as building a brand. I guess the perfect storm or the perfect mix would be to be able to do those things in tandem, make money and build a good brand that is attractive to investors as well. But let's look at what's happening now in this pandemic era, this COVID-19 era, where we've seen such a drop in entertainment-related events and revenue. This provides a lot of jobs for people. A lot of industry professionals are being hit hard as well. Performing artists obviously are losing a lot of chances to show what they have, and that's a big revenue earner for them as well. So it's tough enough for up-and-coming artists on the continent to make ends meet. How can they really capitalize on technology right now and innovative methods to keep supporting themselves during this pandemic? So we know it's important to build that brand, but it is important to eat as well. So as we're dealing with this whole pandemic, let's talk about what some of our artists can do, especially the up-and-coming ones who are still trying to break through, what they can be doing using technology in this day and age. Okay, Kenneth, I'm still on you, so maybe you can start this off and then we'll move on to another speaker.
Well, I think with up-and-coming artists, or even artists in general, I think engaging with your fans. And also, if you could do something online, and there's a lot of like IG events and whatnot, but even if you partner with an entertainment company or whatnot, reduce your prices. Of course, you can't get X amount of what you're getting before, but if you're expecting right now, like everything is down, like everywhere around the world. So if you get, let's say 60,000, maybe take the hit and take 10,000. It is a big hit, but take the 10, at least it's better than zero. And then again, the zeros, but maybe now you have to do 6 shows, 6 live shows before you get that 60,000 that you're looking for. But if we reduce, and then also like with the promoters as well too, like being mindful, because at the end of the day, the artists is like, if they're up and coming, they must have families, if they're doing like full time and everything as well too. So it has to be like considering like both ways within the promoters and the artists, and then also like always engaging with your fans.
Yeah. All right, Kim, let me come to you very quickly, because we've talked a lot about the artists, but for entrepreneurs like you and Kenneth and everyone else on this panel, you're taking the hit as well, as far as events are concerned, with the limits on people's movement and lockdowns and limits on gatherings. How is that impacting you, and how are you also innovating in this time period?
So for us, of course, we've had, everyone's been hit by COVID. That's without saying. But I do also feel like COVID has given entrepreneurs who are worth their weight an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity for you to relook at your strategy and your brand model and see if your company is actually sustainable in every situation. Let me give you an example. We do live events, okay? We do live events. We do a lot of branding with artists. But during COVID, what I realized was I still have this arm of media that because I had so many live events, I never really utilized. So what I went back to was my relationship with artists, you know what I mean? They still need to get their names out there. They still need to do what they have to do. So you have to then say, okay, fine, if I'm not going to be able to do live events, I can still bring the artists to make sure that their brand equity and their fan base remains the same, that for me, when I do start live events, I'm gonna make money, you know, because again, we're living in a very fast-paced world. Do you know what I mean? People forget about people so quickly. We've got Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Trilog. It's endless. Do you know what I mean? So engaging the media for me has been, I think, the most important thing during this, because I've been able to connect, and this is the beauty of technology. I've been able to connect some of my clients. You know, I've got clients in West Africa who've done media tours virtually. And what has that done? It's helped them. Their streaming numbers are going up. You have to be able to, what's the word? You have to be able to evolve. Do you know what I mean? To survive, you must evolve. And if you cannot evolve, then it's not the business for you. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, then it's the only thing you can do is evolve. So we're really dealing a lot with media. Another thing is that we're engaging a lot of the brands, you know, we're engaging the brands we had partnered with before, keeping that conversation going, seeing how we can still do online activations for them, because everyone's home. But at the end of the day, people still eat, people still drink, people still, do you know what I mean, still cook. So our partners, for example, like Pepsi and, you know, Uganda WYRE, which is one of our brands here, we've kept the conversation going. So how can we help you sell your brand? So that's what we've been doing. So it's about evolution. For me, that's what I see. It's an opportunity really to pivot with your business and scale. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. I think Andre Hackett has joined us now. Remember, he's Fuse ODG's manager, and he's also co-founder of New African Nation. Hi, Andre.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi. Nice to have you joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'd like to rope you into the conversation right now. We're talking again about innovation in the music industry, trends, talent, and investment. And we're just on the tangent now of what people are doing now in this pandemic. So events are down, we know that. It's of making money, artists themselves. You're an artist manager. You have an artist who is quite prolific, is very successful. How are you adapting, and what's your advice for artists like yours and for entrepreneurs like you in dealing with the new normal and how you capitalize on that to further boost your brands?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, times like this, as Kim has said, it really proves and makes you have to look at the fundamentals. And it makes you focus on the things probably you was always supposed to focus on, but now you have to focus on. Yeah. And for me, any artist or any musician that I always work with, we always try and instill the mindset that the music is really just the shop front. It's the shop window. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You need to have a product. You need to have a product or a service. And if you don't, then times like these will prove very difficult. And so it's kind of about, thinking, really taking this time to actually think about what it is, that your core purpose is within your artistry, and what problems you can solve within that in the form of products. So, for example, Fuse, he's always championing Africa and with the whole This Is New Africa movement. So for him, I'd always had him, working on different products. So one of the products that he's been working on is the nanodolls. So I don't know if these, but they're doing amazingly well at the moment, especially in this kind of climate. But it was something I'd always had him working on. And so those of you that don't know, these are African dolls. You could liken them to a black Barbie, but they're all based on historical African women. So they're not just, a doll, they're also the educational product. And so funny enough, in this climate, they're flying off the shelf at the moment. But again, these are things that fit in with his brand, and going back to, I think it was Kim or Kenneth was saying, is really about focusing on the brand and understanding the brand. If you understand the brand, then you'll find, the brand will tell you what to do. So it's about really working out what the brand is, and actually what is the purpose, what is the problem you want to solve, and how can you do that in the form of a product or a service outside of the music, and letting the music really be the shop window. So I think it's that time, everyone has to start thinking what products can we sell, because in this business, and I've always said to my artists, it's great that you're getting paid all of this money to go and do a show, but you don't want to do that forever. You don't want to have to go on the road.
You want to have to do that
to make money. You want to do it if you, whilst you want to. You want it to be a choice. You don't want to be on that rat race. So it is about thinking about artistry as a whole of as a holistic view of being an entrepreneur. And every artist has to be an entrepreneur, and so they need to think about different products.
All right, diversify. That's the name of the game. Diversify. Derrick, let me come to you very quickly. So we're talking about trends, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about our industry. We all know what viral videos can do for people in this day and age, and social media is proving to be a real avenue for people to not only be noticed, but to also make some revenue. So, Derrick, do you think social media trends are a great way to discover new talent? I mean, we know there are several ways that people are scouted, but in your opinion, are people utilizing it enough? And is there more that we can do, or more that we can use social media for, to advance this agenda of making Africa even better than it is right now in the entertainment sense?
Okay, that's a great question. And I'll approach it from two angles, or what's right and what's wrong.
Okay.
First, we can definitely use it, and we definitely should be using it in advancing the vision of Africa and of African creativity, presenting it to the world as seen through our eyes. We're not waiting for somebody else to interpret on our behalf. And I think that we're in a really groundbreaking moment in African history where we have the tools and the technology to tell our own stories. So literally, that's why we do what we do. We call it Take Back the Mic. Let a generation literally speak for itself. Where I think things are good is the way that artists are using these various tools to build their own brand. But as was discussed by WYRE, it takes a long time, it's quite challenging, and everybody is trying to do the same thing. There's an obvious angle or aspect of this that is never really discussed, and that is the fans. So for example, let's say you've got a certain type of music, a certain vibe, you know what I'm saying? You see Fuse ODG is doing well. You got something that's distinctive, but you feel it would roll with the same audience. How do you find Fuse's top fans? Maybe they would love you. They would love to know about you. How do you make that connection? We're always focused on what the artist is doing, and the artists basically have to fight to be heard, fight to eat something small. If you had better data and understanding of the audience, that starts to change the game. And it's not just something that, you know, we kind of make up. It's a theory of like, oh, we got to respect the fans. If you look at industry, people do it very well. Let you go out tonight to Amazon, you know what I'm saying, buy some flowers. Let you go out again 2 nights from now, buy some wine on Amazon. 9 months from now, Amazon is looking, they're saying he bought flowers, he bought wine, he ain't buying no condoms, let's sell him some diapers. Deep data, deep understanding, deep knowledge of the consumer. I think that where we need to think more intelligently about social media is in how do we leverage these technologies to not only understand the art and discover artists, but understand the audience that we build around those artists and harness that audience across cultures. I mean, you know, I did a show with Fuse in Stanford back in the day. He flew in from London, I flew in from New York. A bunch of different people here are developing music that has got audiences all around the world, right? If you look at the US context, the biggest audience for K-pop, for example, from Korea, are US Hispanics. They're not Asian, they don't speak Korean, they love it. Why wouldn't there be people in Indonesia that is down for Afro beats, right? Why wouldn't there be people in, you know what I'm saying, Berlin that are like, oh my God, Kenyan hip hop is lit, whatever the case may be. We need to leverage the technology to better understand our audience, and that can actually be a competitive advantage for African artists and creators. We can leverage our diaspora as well as the sounds and the people on the continent.
Nice. Targeted marketing and understanding the brand is part of all of that. I love how all of your submissions are connecting wonderfully in what we need to do to further propel our entertainment industry. Andre, would you like to comment on this as well, as far as using social media?
Well, I think Derrick hit it on the head, to be honest. It's about, you know, there's so many analytical tools now. It's about drilling into the audiences. If you don't know the audience, then you don't know what you're selling. So, to be honest, I think he hit it on the head.
I think so as well. So I'll go to WYRE, since he is a musician. Let's get your thoughts, WYRE. As an artist, how is social media benefiting you? How are you leveraging it to advance your brand?
I've actually been a brand ambassador for a couple of corporate brands on this side. And within this period, I've been kept quite busy on the influencing side because of social media following. So what I've noticed on this side is some of the older generation artists hadn't focused too much on jumping onto social media. It's a new school artists who've been doing that, but I decided let me try and focus that for some time back, and it's been really fruitful. You know what I mean? A lot of the brands that I've been working with have changed tact in the recent past, and changed their media campaigns to shift more to social media. So I've had to come up with concepts that we can work with more on the digital side. You know what I mean? To keep my brand still visible out there. I've had to hit studio a lot more to remain relevant. You know what I mean? Because since we're not doing any more concerts, we've been doing a couple of virtual concerts on this side. That's become pretty popular as well. And we've seen corporate brands getting involved more in sponsoring these virtual concerts right now. I'm also getting a lot of requests. I've been in the industry for quite some time, and if there's one thing I've always wanted to do is to give back to the industry through nurturing new acts and upcoming artists. So a lot of them reach out to me on social media. They hit the DMs, send me their demos, and if I like it, I get them to studio and waiver studio time. A lot of them can't afford to pay for studio time or get to do a music video. So that's where I step in as an artist, as an elderly artist, and as a label as well. Okay. All right. Let's talk a bit about technology moving our music beyond our borders. So we know what technology did to certain art forms, or certain technology that we thought was modern before. I don't remember the last time I bought a CD. I don't know. You know, cassette Not
tapes,
you alone.
obviously. I mean, if you ask my kids, they wouldn't know what a cassette tape is. WYRE, I don't know if you know what a cassette. Of course, you know what a cassette tape is, but I'm just kidding. But obviously, streaming services are all the rage. You know, everywhere from Spotify, Apple Music, Boomplay, etc. What is that going to do as far as how we consume our music, how our music travels? And I've heard Olamide talk about the fact that he believes that DJs are the end-all be-all and the most important part of this equation. Does he still think that? Are your views changing now, Olamide, especially in the wake of this COVID pandemic, which has really given us a new normal? So let's talk a bit about streaming services, our music traveling farther than it did in the past, and then we'll segue into collaboration with artists in the West. Okay. So streaming services, Olamide, let's kick it off with you.
So for us as a music business, right, it's actually interesting seeing how streaming services have like evolved and increased over the years. Obviously, Africa is still not the biggest streaming market yet because of data peculiarities and other challenges, right? But what you do realize is that over a period of time, it's only going to get better. And for me particularly, what I see from COVID as an example is accelerating the digital penetration and digital consumption, right? A lot of people are sitting in their homes now, stuck to their phones, listening to music and watching YouTube way more than they did before, you know. So it's an opportunity for us, right? And you do need to realize that the world is a global village now, and the more attention you pay to the digital space, the more you can harness your brand and your music. He mentioned data mining earlier, and for me, that's one of the very key things, because back in the day of physical distribution, you see that you have one particular marketer who's distributing your physical CDs across the country, but you're not getting any feedback. You don't know who's buying your music. You don't know their age. You don't know their sex. You don't know where they're coming from. You know, you have no idea. That data literally does not exist. You know, now you see that when you're releasing music, you go to your back end and you see that, oh, I have some sort of an audience in Uganda. Maybe I should do a remix with a Ugandan artist to harness that audience. You know, there is an immediate example actually from one of our artists who's called CK. CK put an EP out last year, and he had one song on the EP called Love Wantinti. It's a really amazing love song. And the song wasn't doing too well on its own. It had a pretty bigger Afrobeat song that was doing really well locally. But this Love Wantinti was such a beautiful song. And we said to him, you know what, why don't we try to do a remix of this song and see what happens, right? And then they took a trip to Ghana to do media rounds. And he bumped into Kwame Eugene, and Kwame Eugene jumped on the song. And then he came back to Nigeria, and Joe Boy heard the song, and Joe Boy was like, whoa, I love this, and he jumped on the song. And automatically the song became a hit, you know. And you see stuff like Winnie Harlow does a whole TikTok video about the song. We don't know Winnie Harlow from anywhere. You know, you watch Didi's Instagram live and you see the song is playing on Didi's Instagram live. I don't know Didi from anywhere. But you realize that because the music could penetrate digitally, they're on certain playlists. Didi's in his house probably just tuned into a playlist on African music, and that song is there. You know, so there's like, the digital space it's an opportunity to do so much. You know, now this CK's one song that we turned into one remix is being released tomorrow as a 6 remix tape. So he's done an East African remix with an artist called Rayvani. He's done a South African remix with Shego and Gemini Major. He's done a Spanish remix with a guy called Dianagetto. He did a French remix with Franglish. He did a German remix with a guy called Frizo, and a North African remix with a guy called El Grande Toto. You know, so what you then realize is that when this project, I'm excited to drop the project tomorrow, because I realize that once this project drops, you're going to get streams from De La Ghetto's audience, you're going to get streams from Rayvani's audience. And for me, that's the magic of the digital space, you know. And at the end of the day, the earlier you try to make use of that data and make informed decisions with the data that you have, the more successful and the more progressive your projects can be, you know. So, I mean, like, for me, there's more opportunities than challenges for me, particularly with the lockdown. I mean, obviously there's challenges, you know. There's more pressure on digital recorded music revenue than live revenue. But then that in itself is an opportunity, you know. You find out that a lot of artists used to focus very little on digital revenue, make big bucks from shows and endorsements and merchandise and other things. And you realize that regardless of how big you are, these income streams are short term. You can only be a superstar for a period of time, and those endorsements are only going to run for a period of time. But your digital content is going to be there forever. Fela's estate is still feeding from his royalties. Michael Jackson's estate is still feeding from the royalties, you know. So the earlier you start plugging your footprints and building your catalog digitally, the stronger. It's real estate for me. That's how I see it. You know, I see music as real estate for the artist. So the earlier you start building your digital footprints, the better for you, because that's where the future, really it is now. It's not even the future anymore. You know, in Africa, primarily in Nigeria, we used to see digital penetration as something that probably take another 3 to 5 years to like boom. And COVID has literally made everything happen in 3 months, and it's becoming a reality more and more every day. You know, so it's ridiculous. And even regarding the DJs, as much as there's not so many physical activities going on right now, what I usually say is that technology is always going to come. The world is always going to evolve. It's how you use that information and the research you do and how you adapt with the technology that makes you stand out and relevant. I mean, DJs 15, 20 years back used to travel with crates just to go and play a 10, 15 minute gig. And you're going around with suitcases and all of that. Now you do it with just your laptop and a hard drive, you know. 5 years from now, you literally could be from your phone or from wherever, but it doesn't mean that the DJ is going to be irrelevant. It's just adapting the technology to like improve your art, if that makes any sense. People are always going to want to socialize. People are always going to want to dance. A playlist can only do so much. A DJ does a lot, you know. So for me, that there's a lot of opportunities digitally that we can tap into. Collaborations, data, there's so much, so much.
Should we be thinking or concerned at all about African ownership of some of these services? We all know the kind of resources and muscle and reach that services like, you know, Apple Music and Spotify and you know, all these streaming services have. We've got our Boomplay as well. We've got other African indigenous services. But is it something that should be a concern to us, that perhaps some of these services, indigenous services, could be crowded out by the big boys, especially since, you know, we're talking a lot about entrepreneurship, developing SMEs in Africa, supporting SMEs to grow. Or I saw Kim shaking her head, so perhaps she doesn't see it as something for us to really be concerned about. But, you know, it's Startup Africa. We're talking about African entrepreneurship. So Kim, give me your thoughts on that.
So I was shaking my head because I don't feel like for Africa to be great, we must minimize the impact of other brands. So for example, if you're still going to try and break internationally, which should still be something people look forward to, do you know what I mean? Or work toward.
Yes.
That doesn't negate the importance of Apple Music or anything. Where I think the African, you know, brands that are now starting to stream music and stuff like that need to worry is if they themselves don't have a concrete business model, or if they don't actually have the drive or the team behind them to actually do what they have to do. So for example, Apple really spends a lot. Do you know what I mean? Spotify spends a lot. Spotify is not available in Uganda, so I can't really speak to it. I don't care for it that much. But Apple Music but Apple Music for sure. Boomplay, these are guys who are actually investing in their, you know, their playlists. They get curators, they get, you know, who are African. It's not that they've got, you know, some guy sitting in, you know, Washington doing it. They've got people who they have here who actually curate playlists, who look out for talent, who help them put together this body of work. Now, for me, where I think it's an opportunity for all the, you know, the platforms that are African, is for them to not look at it as, oh, we need you to move so we can have space. No, it should look at, you need to create your own lane and make sure you're giving us something that nobody else on the market does, because they do have an unfair advantage. They have an unfair advantage. You're on the continent. So how can somebody in Washington have more than you do? Do you know what I mean? And that comes back to relationships and networking. Really, honestly, relationships are key. If we as Africans really look at it and say, okay, fine, we're gonna put our music here with this African brand, it shouldn't be just because it's African. It should be because it's African, they're efficient, they're going to push my music, they're gonna do everything this other guy is doing and more. Do you know what I mean? What percentages are they taking off? They need to give themselves that competitive edge where people are like, you know what, not only am I gonna put my music here because it's African, but because they still give me a great service. And I think that's where we shouldn't even let the conversation go there like, oh, it's because it's African. We're not a pity party. Africa genuinely has the most creative people. We have seen this. Do you know what I mean? Coming over, you know, history from slavery to whatever, look where we are now. We had a Kenyan as the president of America. Okay, thanks. And then we've got, do you know what I mean? We've got the biggest artist in America, in America doing a whole entire African album. Do you know what I mean? So we need to look at our own power, but then not be lazy about it. We need to work towards what we want. So if we want an African platform, we need to make it relevant.
Can I say something to that?
Thank you. Yes, I was coming to you, Derrick.
Okay, because you're completely speaking to my work, right? So I literally just took my company out of Silicon Valley and moved it back to Africa to build a platform that serves artists across the African continent, India, and Southeast Asia. And I agree with you that it's true. We should not be like, oh, here's some charity water. These guys are doing a thing and they're barely getting by. And so let's just support them because they're like us. No, it's never going to work that way. But if you look at what happens in the broader context, you go to any of these like dope universities, big companies, whatever, you're going to find Africans at all of them, killing the game, operating at the very, very highest levels and generating lots and lots of value that stays in London and New York and Seattle, etc. At a certain point, we have to start investing in ourselves. I mean, I would probably be making more money if I stayed out there. But at the end of the day, I see an opportunity to build something powerful, massive, that generates capital for African artists, that is a better big data engine to understand the audience than what Facebook or YouTube would provide you anyway. We're not out here to try to be like, oh, well, we did a thing, it's the African version. It's like, no, no, no. How do we build world-class technology, world-class infrastructure, just like we have world-class talent? And the reason I say that this is so important is because so long as we're like just kind of doing it out there or hoping for them to come to us, the resources, when they sell that company or that platform, are going to go back to Sweden or going to go back to US or UK. And that's great. They should do well too. But what happens if we had PayPal Mafia out of Nairobi? What happens if we have it out of Kampala? What does that do for the music scene? What does that do for the cultural sector? I think we need to demand more. We need more of our people investing in building world-class assets that stay in Africa, that generate capital for African entrepreneurs and African communities, as well as supporting the artists.
Fantastic. Okay.
Can I add something on that?
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important question in terms of ownership. Okay, and I'll speak from the artist perspective. I think this is the biggest question that we need to deal with in terms of actually owning our masters, owning our intellectual property, because right now we're coming to a point in time where everybody's, you know, as Kim said, you know, the whole world now is gazing on Africa, and what we need to be so careful about is making sure that we retain the rights of our masters. You know, I think this sound, this genre, it has a specific purpose. You know, I think the you know, the shame about a genre like hip hop, which was Black culture, but it was never really owned by Black people, you know. And I think now, in terms of, there's an opportunity now, we have an opportunity to own the music and own the culture, because within the culture, that's where we can create industries, you know, and hip hop did it. You know, within hip hop, you had the clothing lines, you had the music, you had the film, you had, you know, and we can do the same thing within this African music, in terms of the clothing, the food, the whole lifestyle that comes with it, industry. And that's actually how Black people now, we're gonna change our footing in the world. And I think, you know, too much. Before we focused as a people, we focused on, become a doctor, become a lawyer, but actually it's the creative industries. We are the ones that are going to create the money streams that's actually going to stay in our world. And so that if we really want power, we need to own our intellectual property, and that will cascade into owning economic property, you know. And I think we'll put too little value on, you know, the intellectual property when it comes to the arts.
Okay. Olamide, did you want to add something?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So as regards streaming platforms, right, two things I wanted to add was that, one, first of all, streaming is also a bit relatively new culture to us here. So the more we get into it with better data rates, with better infrastructure, streaming becomes more of a culture, right? I was reading an article that says that the next billion streaming revenue is not going to come from the West. It's going to come from Africa and Latin America and the cultural, the root places, right? And what that means is that once Africa starts adopting streaming more and more, you realize that we start then consuming local content more and more. You go on an Apple Music, and the reason why you're listening to a lot of partly local content, a lot of international content, is that probably not all your favorite local artists are even on that platform. You know, so over a period of time, you realize that we're gonna have to see more streaming platforms that pay attention to localized content, where a Nigerian person can go on a streaming platform and stream all kinds of Nigerian content, from upcoming artists to legends to classics to different genres. You get what I mean? So what I see is an opportunity and not a problem, if that makes any sense.
Eche, let's talk a bit about cross-continental collaboration. We can segue into that now. Obviously, people are still celebrating Black is King, Beyonce's visual album that was inspired by Lion King movie. But let's talk about this a bit. You know, everybody, I know here in Ghana, Shatta Wale has this wonderful video as part of the project with Beyonce. We all know some of the artists who were featured on that amazing project. Everybody from Wizkid and Burna Boy to Shatta Wale. We had directors like Blitz Bazawule taking a part in there too. We've got DWP Dance Academy. A lot of African influence. People get paid, people trend. It's a big hit. It trends for a couple of weeks. Then what? What are we using that kind of exposure for, beyond the fact that someone can get up and say, I was on a hit record with Beyonce, my day is made, my life is made. What are we using this for? Is this now the catalyst to catapult African content to the next level? Are we really benefiting as much as we should from these collaborations? Or is this just another issue of the West reaching to what we have, which is so precious, capitalizing on it, and just using it to further their agenda and not ours?
I think we're capitalizing on it, right? I remember when I moved to the States in 2006, I'm based in San Francisco, Silicon Valley area. And I remember coming with African music and I was the only one playing it, right?
Okay.
And back then I was like, hey, I need to get all my people on it. And 10 years since then, I've been doing events for like 10 years. I've been doing concerts. When Wizkid did his first tour, I was there. He's 19, I'm 19 at the time. So to see him on a video, I watched Black is King 2 days ago, on a video with Beyonce, was like, wow, we all built this, right? Like it wasn't just Wizkid that was releasing music, it was the promoters, it was the DJs, it was the media people, especially people based in the diaspora as well, the unsung heroes across the board, right? And I think, going back to what Derrick and some other speakers on the panel have said, is we need to make sure the quality of what we put out there is world class, which is when it's world class, even if Beyonce will see it and want to be attached to it. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I think as we're creating the ecosystem, it's about making sure the ecosystem and people understand how everything connects to one another. Like, I think Andre said it. It's like you have the food, you have the music, you have the fashion, you have the style, you have even the fintech industries. How can all these industries connect to enable us move and march towards a common goal? And I think, honestly, so far so good. We have been capitalizing on it. It's just we need to scale it up and really understand where we're going with this, you know? So.
Okay. So if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're an SME entrepreneur looking at the opportunities that these kinds of collaborations are presenting, where's your thought process? What are you thinking about? Obviously, Kim, you're in the events business. What are some things that you would say to advise people listening or watching as to what they should be thinking about with regard to taking that brand beyond our borders, growing that business, getting people to buy into that idea, and having an SME that takes entertainment and African entertainment to the next level?
I'll speak from, I'll just build on what Andre said, because it's key to what my answer is: ownership. I just hope that their management was equally excited about watching the paperwork and what is going on. Because you see, when it comes to these kind of collaborations, you're dealing with people who've been dealing with the Ari Golds of this world, if I can say, if anyone ever watched
for
that
years.
show. You're going to be dealing with people who know the loopholes before you even know that's a loophole. So for me, Black is King, watching it, it was bittersweet. It was sweet because I'm looking at Shatta Wale, I'm looking at Wizkid, I'm looking at Yemi Alade, I'm looking at Lupita Nyong'o. It's a bit bitter because I'm wondering, is everyone really going to enjoy the benefits of what is happening? Do you know what I mean? Is it that it's a one-off payment and you're going to get paid like $100,000? You see, Africans, our biggest problem is we're very short-sighted. Someone will come and tell you, I'm paying you $500,000. That's nothing. This album is going to make tens of millions of dollars. Where are we in that conversation? So entrepreneurs need to always look at not just today, where's my brand right now, but if I'm collaborating with somebody, where's my brand going to be in 10 years? And concentrate on that. Do you know what I mean? Watch what you're going to be doing. Tell me that, okay, I know, for example, Sunday already didn't play with that one. I'm 100% sure Wizkid is going to eat from that for life. Do you know what I mean? I know Shatta Wale is also a really, really smart musician and businessman. So it's okay with that, but there's so many people who are involved in this project. You know, there were designers from Uganda, from Kenya, and whatever, okay? And then, do you know what I mean? You have zero credit. Do you know what I mean? Okay, she put you up on the website somewhere. Do you know what I mean? But you as the brand, now is the time to go and take those screenshots, go and link to her page, let people buy off Beyonce's page and know she's selling your product. Because eventually, you're gonna find those products being sold by Chanel, or, do you know what I mean? You have zero ownership of your product, and that comes down to education. You need to educate yourself. Take COVID to take all the small little classes on copyright law, intellectual property, all of the things that you need to know to secure your brand. Because at the end of the day, it's great to say I was a Beyonce, but who cares if at the end of the day, in 5 years, you're here asking people like me, like, hey, so about that gig you were going to give me, I'll take 2K. No, do you know what I mean? You need to make sure that there's continuous gaining of your brand and in equity. You know what I mean? And that only comes with ownership. So Andre actually really said what my eye roll was about. So that's about it. That's it, yeah.
Olamide, sorry, before we take our closing question and remarks, did you want to say something about this?
So, well, I think it's just interesting that she referenced Wizkid, because something really, I can't remember when it was. The day the project dropped, Wizkid went on Twitter and posted something about Disney owes me $100,000. $100 million or something. And in my head, the first thing that crossed my mind was, wasn't this sorted out before this project was released? Where were your lawyers? Where's your management? Why are you trying to sort this out on Twitter? Like, how are we here, you know? And
but Beyonce has offered me a chance to do an album with her. I'm not gonna ask questions.
No.
I just want that credit.
No,
you're gonna ask questions.
I don't think that was the story. I think Beyonce actually released it without permission. So it wasn't that the lawyers or the management didn't know what was going on. I think it was one of those things of, you should be happy and we'll sort it out later. I'm Beyonce, and Wizkid wasn't having that. So, like I said, Sunday doesn't sleep. Always awake.
Oh, shine your eye, as we say here. No, but it does reiterate the fact that we need to be more vigilant, and that maybe someone might think that certain opportunities are too big for you to not necessarily question, but negotiate. Maybe the fact that you will be credited on a project like that means more than royalties for life. But no, it's a structured musical system. So I'm just being facetious a bit. But I think for a lot of people, the magnitude of the whole thing possibly could have outweighed maybe long-term benefits. Okay, we can talk about this forever, but we are running out of time. Olamide, I can see you were ready to hit back, but
I wanted to hear what he wanted to say.
Let's wrap up here. So
2 seconds.
I was just gonna say, I don't think anything should be greater than your royalties. Like I said, it's like your real estate. That's all you have at the end of the day.
True.
Once the inspiration comes to your head, you get in the studio, you spit it out. That's all you have.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
So
your intellectual
for the
property, that's what
for the
feeds
songwriters, for everybody, like you just have to fight for it, and rather not just give it up. You know,
Nice.
because Beyonce heard
Nice.
something. She definitely heard something. She just didn't think, oh, I want to help this boy.
Yeah.
No, but I don't think there's any way that a Wizkid or a Shatta or all of them didn't have their business. Right? I thought it was just more of a joke for the $100 million thing. I don't think I can't imagine that like Beyonce would release stuff without getting it credit. She doesn't seem like that type of business woman. You know, so it always seems like she has her stuff handled and it's good to go. But at the end of the day, like Africans would say, shine your eye. You know what I mean? Like,
shine, you see, there's that phrase, shine your eye. Okay, before we go, so Eche, WYRE, Olamide, Andre, Kenneth, Kim, Derrick, we know this is ScaleUp Africa. They're trying to change the way we do things, trying to empower SMEs, trying to empower entrepreneurs, trying to encourage investment in what we're doing here on the continent. So what is your commitment to working with ScaleUp Africa to drive change in the entertainment industry? Let's hear from all of you. So Eche, since I can see you clearly right now, maybe we'll start with you.
I think I got connected to Olivia, and I love what they're doing because these are the conversations that are currently happening in the Silicon Valley area where I'm at. We've been talking about potentially even crowdfunding for investments into Africa. And because we have a situation now where some of the VCs in the area pulled out of checks that they were supposed to cut as soon as COVID hit, right? And you have a situation where you have startups who were depending on those checks for one way, and now they're stuck in limbo. And I think honestly, like Derrick, like Andre, like Kenneth, everybody else has said, I've never felt comfortable leaving our destiny in the hands of quote unquote white people. You get me? It's like, I don't expect them to do anything for me. Anything they do for me is bonus. You know what I mean? So it should be within us, the same way the Chinese built their land, the same way the Indians built their land, the same way other countries are doing it, we also have to do it as well and know that sacrifices need to be made. We need to be intentional with how we approach these things, and these sort of conversations help march us towards that reality, you know? And I think at the end of the day, it comes with increasing our knowledge base, increasing our skill base, and increasing our equity. And we need to understand that we're not grateful to have a seat at the table. We deserve a seat at the table. You know what I mean?
You.
So, yeah.
I like that. I love it. All right. Olamide.
My message will be collaborations on all levels. Okay. I mean, between artists and creatives of all levels, I feel like the bigger artists should also do better to reaching down to developing artists and just expose them. I personally want to be responsible for a lot of connecting the dots, you know, so creative agencies coming together to see what they can do, artists and producers coming together to see what they can do, because at the end of the day, it's a learning curve. We're all just trying to figure a lot of things out as well. The more support you can get from the other person, the stronger you are. Great. So yeah, really, that's for me, that's the message.
Thank you. WYRE.
I think I'm going to echo what Olamide said, man. I'm thinking the same thing. I would love to be able to produce some music for some Nigerian artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd love to voice some tracks from Chocolate City. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let's keep the link after this. Let's see what we can do. I mean, yes, East Africa is a market on its own, West Africa as well, but the whole of Africa is a huge market just for all of us, you know what I mean? And that way, man, we can speak volumes to the rest of the world.
Okay, Kenneth. Kenny.
Yeah, I think definitely like collaboration, helping each other. Like, it's just a funny thing. Eche is on a panel with us, but last year Afrochella, our first 5,000 tickets, Eche's company bought 1,000. So like helping each other out, and then supporting each other, and then giving each other advice no matter what part of Africa you're from. Just help each other, we all go together as one.
Yeah. All right, Kim.
Collaboration for me, and I think it's really letting young people in. You know, young people come with a drive that, you know, more seasoned people sometimes kind of, you know, you've made your money and you're kind of like, you're bored. So it's really letting young people in. It's really letting more women sit at the table for me.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, it's very key. You know, it's a boys' club. So for me, whenever I'm in a room, I'm usually the more boisterous one because I'm like, you will listen. Yeah, I think that's it. It's really collaboration, and I'm gonna drop my details in the panel something.
Okay, great.
Over here, and we can continue over there. But I really thank Olivia and everyone, including yourself.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll say quickly, like, I love this. What I'm contributing is actually an original series for up-and-coming African artists. I believe in the collaboration model. We're doing it in 6 countries across Africa. If you know an up-and-coming hip-hop artist, dancer, rapper, singer, whatever, tell them to go to Take Back the Mic, mic.com, register. 1,200 people signed up in the first week and a half. The deadline is Sunday, so it's an opportunity. We've got 2 Emmy nominations for the test version in Latin America. Now we're taking it to scale here.
Amazing. Thank you. Andre, finally.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I think my commitment would be having cut my teeth on this side of the water and swam with the sharks and survived and believe in the sharks. You know, and right now they are smelling blood. My concern is actually, you know, to do with mentorship and making sure a lot of the artists here actually survive in these waters, because again, and it's all down to ownership and actually understanding how to put contracts together, how to structure your deals and your business structure. That's the key, because without that, there's no, you know, that's where Afrochella exists. That's where all these clothing brands exist. That's where, you know, Black people can be empowered. So that's what is important to me. And so that's what I'm going to commit to. But thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I need some Nana dolls for my baby girl.
No worries.
So
I'll put the link in the conversation.
No, but thank you to all of you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you again to ScaleUp Africa, to Olivia, Amma, the whole team. Again, my name is Kokui. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you guys this afternoon. Take care.